Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining me. Today is August 8th. It's now 3:57 Eastern Time. I was just looking at some charts and I figured I'd put up a video just showing you what I look for as far as chart patterns and showing you how to recognize chart patterns as well as draw trend lines based on, anticipating these type of breakouts that you can trade. Um, so we'll be going over these patterns I look for and the breakouts that I look for, usually around key support and resistance levels. Um, going over charts is basically it's good practice. It helps you anticipate moves and trades for the next day, and gives you an idea what to look for as far as your type of setups that you might like more than others. There are some patterns that people prefer to trade over others. So it's always good to go back and look at patterns and look at old charts to see, um, how to recognize these things in advance so you can know what to look for in the upcoming weeks. Um, it also helps you with, going over entries and exits as far as recognizing the patterns that you're looking for. You basically draw them on resistance and support levels, and once you get that breakout, it helps you understand the best place to enter and to exit based on your trading strategy. Also, nothing is guaranteed, so just remember that just because you have a pattern in front of you, it doesn't always mean it's going to work out or it's going to run in the direction that you think it's going to run in. The market is tricky. It's made to be tricky. It's not necessarily made to be easy, of course, and so you have to take that in consideration. That every pattern that you recognize isn't always going to work out the way that you want it to. And as far as the patterns itself, it's no need to try to analyze what type of pattern it is. If it's a bull flag, if it's a pennant or a triangle, that's not important. A lot of people argue over the smallest things, and that's, like I said, that's basically based on what the name of the pattern is. The most important thing is recognizing the pattern itself and what it means and what the price action represents in that pattern. Whether it's a triangle or a pennant, it's basically showing you a direction that it can head in on a breakout. It's giving you an idea of what's happening. It's price moving around and it starts to consolidate, and before you know it, it's looking for an entry and exit for a good level to play the breakout. So on this chart we're looking at now, we'll get right into it. This is Facebook. I already marked some of the patterns that I recognized, and there probably are more. I'm pretty sure there are a lot more. And this, again, I'm sorry, this is also a 4-hour chart, which is what I like to look for as far as going into breakouts and into the next day or next week. I prefer a 4-hour time frame, and then I'll just break it down to a smaller time frame once I see something that I might like look into. So yeah, this is already mapped out, so you can see what I've charted out already from the start to the finish. I have a couple wedges, a couple flags, a little range, and a little range breakout, which is just based off support and resistance. So the first thing I'm going to go into is the first pattern I recognize, which is, you can call this, I believe it's a falling wedge. It's basically setting up in a wedge pattern, and or you can consider it a flag, or like I said, it doesn't really matter, honestly. You can look at it as a flag or a wedge because it's actually going into a downtrend, so that would almost signify that it started going up, and usually with a falling wedge, it represents an uptrend that is now coming down into a consolidation period. And as you can see, the trend line I have at the top is representing resistance. You can see at some point it's making higher lows. So it's price is touching this top point, coming down, going back and testing it again, and unable to break above it. It's coming back down, testing it again, trying to break out, and it's just not getting there. So what you want to look for in this case, obviously, is a breakout above this level. And before I get into that, I want to just see if you can point out I'm already seeing two breakouts that could have been played also, one to the upside, one to the downside. It's very small. Some of them are, but they can actually be used um, in a nice scalp pattern, a nice scalp setup. See if you recognize it real quick. I'll give you a second. Like I said, one is to the upside, one is to the downside. All right, so I'm gonna show you what I spotted earlier. Where I can spot, I'm sorry, what I can see right now actually. And one is this breakout right here. And like I said, there's no need to try to figure out what this pattern is. All you need to know is that this is a breakout. It's showing you resistance at this level. It's key resistance is, and at some point you're looking for it to break above it. And when it breaks out, it runs. And that's the one that the first one I saw to the upside. You can consider it a triangle. You can call it a flag. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, it doesn't. That's not the important. The next one I also see to the downside is this. It's almost like you can say this is a triangle break to the downside, but again, you're seeing key support level, a key support, and once it breaks below this level, what happens? It falls and it breaks and it keeps going. So that would be, in this case, if I was playing this trade, that would be a scalp trade. I would look for once it's consolidating for 2 or 3 days. You're looking for it to go below that level and then to keep going. So, and if you want, we can even break it down on a smaller time frame to give you a better look at it on both of these trades. Go back. Okay. All right. Again, this is the wedge or the flag that we were looking at earlier. Again, this chart and the trend lines aren't going to be as clean. It's not going to be perfect, but it's what it represents. In this case, you can see it actually went above this level at one point, but what happened? It didn't hold. It eventually came back down and went back into this consolidation range. Tried it again. It looks like it broke out again, and in this case, same thing. Did not hold. It ended up coming back down. Now, granted, this is an hourly time frame, so you could actually scalp it above it and play that quick breakout and get in and get out. But for someone that's probably looking for more of a longer trade or long-term trade, they're probably looking for it to hold and stay above that level. Now we can see the last time it happened, what happens this time? It breaks above it, and again, this is an hourly time frame, and you can see it's just as clean as far as the breakout itself. It breaks above it, and look what happens. It actually comes back down. It tests the same exact level and holds it this time. And what happens as it holds, it leads to a higher breakout, and it keeps going. Now, this would be good for a day trade because, like I said, it's on a smaller time frame. So what you want to do is you want to wait for it to break above this level, hold it, and then enter as it breaks above and play the. Now you want to play the breakout and the hold above this level. In this case, this is exactly what you wanted to do. You want to come down and test this level, retest the breakout level, not go below it, stay above, and play the move higher up. And let's see. Same thing earlier as I noticed before, the first smaller breakout. As you can see, it tested it, went above, tested it, went above, could not hold. This last candle, it stood out and it ran the whole time. We can even go to a 15-minute time frame to see how well it held. Okay, all right, so this is a 15-minute candle. Same thing. See, the 15 minutes shows the same thing, a breakout and a hold above that level. You actually can point out a nice little bull flag here. So even if you don't like to play the initial break, you want to wait for it to pause and consolidate a little bit, you would take this breakout. And again, this is how you get better at recognizing patterns. If you were looking at a 15-minute chart and you would actually pick this up, and at some point you would look for a breakout above this flag. All right, and that's just the simplistics of trading a chart and just looking for patterns and breakouts to the upside or to the downside. Okay, we'll go back to the 4-hour now. Again, we're going to just go over a couple of patterns that we're going to recognize. Again, we have another wedge where it's setting up. This is actually a falling wedge because what this is signifying is it's moving into an uptrend. Same thing. we have here? We have just a pattern of consolidation. It's testing this resistance level, coming back down to support. Again, it's not going to be as clean, but that doesn't take away, or that doesn't make the trade any less important. But same thing. You're looking for it to break below or above this. In this case, this is a wedge, so you're looking for a break below for this rising wedge, as it's making newer highs and lower lows. Sorry, higher lows also. This is a low. This is a low. This is a low. And once it breaks below this trend line, it just continues a breakout, and that's your trade right there. Your trade will be once it breaks below this line. And as you can see, once the initial breakout came, it tested the same level, this level that used to be support, and now turns into what? Resistance, right? So this is a good sign to stay in that trade. So if you would have got in here looking for it to go to the downside, you wouldn't panic at this point. Even though it's going higher, you would still be in your trade because it did not clear this old level of support. It actually retested that level, what you wanted to do, and then it tanked. It just crashed and fell all the way down like the way you want to do on a breakout. So again, yeah, that's another pattern that you want to look for, but still the same thing applies. You're looking for breakouts to the upside or to the downside. The pattern itself, don't stress it. Don't worry about too much of what the pattern is. Just try to look for these same patterns in charts when you're trading. This would be considered a flag. We have an uptrend, and what you want to do now is wait for it to consolidate, which it's doing here. And once you see that consolidation, you want to look for a continuation move, which means it's going to continue to go higher. You already started a move to the upside. That's the first move. That's the first leg up. Now what you have, a little pause or consolidation period where it's going into a tight little range. And what you want to look for next, the breakout. And how would you play the breakout? And specifically, this is what I would recommend. Once, in this case, if you're before this day happens, obviously you're looking, what you're looking for is just a breakout above this line. So if this never happened and we're still in pre-market, what I'm looking for, if I'm anticipating a breakout, in this case, it's getting closer to that level. So I'm going to set up an alert for the previous day's high, which would be an alert set here. So what I'm looking for on the next day is a break above this level right here, this price. So once it breaks above this price, that's where my alert kicks in, and I'm looking to getting on this trade. That's just my entry. That's, like I said, because nothing is going to be exact. Nothing is perfect. A break above this line does not necessarily mean this is a true and official breakout. What I'm looking for is some kind of conviction, something that everyone else is watching, and that's pretty much going to be the break of the previous day's high. And as you can see, once it breaks above that, it does hold it, and even into pre-market and post and everything after market and pre-market, it still continues to rise, and that's your breakout. Okay. All right. Another pattern you see here is similar to the first one we saw, which was the falling wedge. This is the same thing almost, or like I said, you can even consider this a flag, because look, you still have your setup down here. You have an uptrend, and now you have a period of consolidation. And then what you have next is testing of the highs and the lows within this range. It's getting a little tighter, and just as the range gets smaller, a breakout is imminent. And once it breaks out, again, boom. It's just, like I said, it's pretty much that. It can be that simple. And a lot of times, a lot of charts, they follow the same moves, they follow the same patterns. It never necessarily repeats itself exactly, but you can see that it's following a certain trend. It's especially on this uptrend. This is basically a long-term uptrend. So what you're looking for is patterns to break out to the upside. This one a little bit different here, where it's just a mere range situation. You just have a tight consolidation between these price levels, 338.26 and about 327.66. So again, this is now just support and resistance now. You can play this either way. You can enter for calls here, or for the upside up for here. on the downside here, and play this up until the breakout is up next. Same thing here. We have the breakout, and we have the retest, and then we have the takeoff. We have the next leg up. Just a perfect setup. And this is up to date, which would be setting up for a nice little flag pattern here. So if this was me looking for this trade this week, what I would say, like I said before, I'm looking for a break above the previous day's high. So that would be this price level right here. So tomorrow, if I was looking to trade Facebook, I would look for a breakout over 365.17. And I'm not a person to set a target. I prefer just to scalp and look for the higher move up. Just look for that next leg up and get in and get out. All right. All right. Next, we're gonna go over Moderna. Okay. This one I didn't chart anything yet. I want you to just take a look at it and see if you can pick out any patterns or any kind of setups that you think you could have traded. Even though, like I said, this is going to be hindsight, but it still helps you to recognize what to look for. And from what I recall, I can see already that Moderna has a lot of triangles to the downside. Upside, I'm seeing mostly just resistance levels, like ascending triangles, where you have basically it's an uptrend and then you have a clear resistance at a strong resistance level when it comes to an ascending triangle. Okay. All right, let's start from back here. Now, like I said, I've noticed a couple of triangles that have been breaking to the downside. So let's start here. This is the first one. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. It's just about what it represents. This is a clear triangle. And let's see. We even have a smaller one here. Okay. Nice little ascending triangle coming up to the upside. And what you'd like to see also, like I said, is the test and the retest of your trend lines. See, as it broke above this level, you can see it's now holding as support, which was once resistance turns into support. Okay, so let's see. Let's see another triangle right here. You can see just a range breakdown right here. This is what I like to call one of those like minor price level breakouts that you can rarely pick out sometimes. Sometimes you look at a chart or you see a chart the next day and you see a stock took off out of nowhere and you're just like, I was not expecting that. And it's similar to Square. I believe Square did the same thing. I'm just now getting to that point where I can recognize those, and this is usually where it starts from here. Something like that you're not expecting. Even though it's a clear uptrend, you can see that it's a clear reversal and a clear breakout, but you're just not watching this. What I would be looking for is maybe something like this. But of course, that's not when it actually took off. It took off after it broke above this level here. And again, this is like a minor resistance level. This right here is fine. It's just like a little too choppy, and it's a little too steep. I don't usually like playing these downtrends that are that steep. But you can see here it wasn't a little downtrend, and then it formed a little consolidation period here, leaving a little triangle, looking a little ascending triangle. But I'm not, like I said, I wouldn't look for it because to the left you can still see some clear resistance level, just some choppy areas where you have to look for a lot of resistance, or just places where the price is gonna maybe stall at, but it doesn't stall it. It just literally just takes off, and that's something I have to be better at looking at recognizing when I'm starting to see that these breakouts, they can happen very often. Just have to look for those minor level breakouts. All right. Okay, now Moderna, if you've been watching the Moderna, it's been taking off and it's been doing the same thing. Now that I'm noticing it, I'm just upset I didn't get into it and hold it or just play it outside of a day trading, because it's basically just setting up these nice triangles and just running. So here's a level and here's an example of an ascending triangle. Again, not gonna be perfect, but it's what it represents. A clear resistance level is right here. What you're looking for at some point is, as you're seeing previously, this was resistance at some point. Now what you see now is starting to turn into a little uptrend now. It's slowly heading back in that direction, slowly. Now what you're looking for is for it to break above this level now, and once it breaks above that, that's when you enter and you're looking for your trade for the up to the upside. And with Moderna, it's been 9 times out of 10, once it breaks above that old high level, it's gonna run throughout for the day or maybe the next couple of days. I can point out another one. Same thing here. This is a new level of resistance. This is an even stronger level of resistance. It didn't hold as long, but it still had the same results. Once it broke out, it ran just that one day and actually paused and ran up the next day a little bit, but came back down. And like I said, as a day trader, this has been your good perfect entry and a good trade for you, and you would have profited from that trade. And the last one was when I noticed, and I'm upset I didn't catch it because I actually did have this on my radar. Again, ascending triangle, just perfect, just a breakout after testing these resistance levels and testing the support level, and breakout, and it runs. This is, looks like, wow, it's a big move. In 2 days, 2 or 3 days, that was the run. So that's probably what I'm looking for again on Madonna. I'm looking for it to set up into another ascending triangle, I'm sorry, and hopefully it can do the same thing all over again. Here it's setting up into a nice little bull flag. So nice little flag there. Again, can also look at it as an ascending triangle, I guess. Yeah, a little smaller one, of course. Well, I'm sorry, this would be a descending triangle because now you see the opposite. Now you see there's a down slope on the top, not a straight across where resistance is at a certain level. Now resistance is basically making higher lows. So I haven't noticed that before, so it's not necessarily something that looks like it's common for Moderna as far as a big breakout. So, but I will be still looking for a breakout to the upside if it gets above this descending triangle. All right, and one more thing I'm going to show is going to be a supply and demand level, which can be very helpful. Let's see, this is going to be snow. So again, you can still look for patterns or look for setups if you can recognize any. I can see a couple triangles, a couple of flags. Let's see, we even have a little triangle setting up right here. And this is what I would look for as I'm looking into the next week. I'm going into the most current, most up-to-date setup that I can spot. And this is one thing I'm watching into next week. This triangle breakout for snow, because it's already in a nice little uptrend. And prior to that, though, you can still see a level of support and resistance. Now let's see. I'm just gonna mark this right here. Nice little. All right. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, but you can clearly see that this level right here is resistance or supply zone, meaning when it gets to this price, this level, what happens? Sellers step in and they bring price back down, and then from that point on, you can actually pick a trade from there. A lot of times, it's mostly about looking for the bigger picture. And at this point, you're looking at a downtrend from this level, so you're looking for a breakout to the downside. So you can play it here to the downside. Nice little level. Same thing here. Once it gets here, you're looking for it to pull back, and you have a small little triangle here. A lot of setups to the downside. Another little triangle here. But again, that's a supply level. So supply is just another way of saying strong resistance where sellers are waiting. So once you see the price get to that point, you're now expecting it to go lower or to, if you're in it for the upside, that's exactly where you would probably get out of the trade and take your profit. Now, what happens after it breaks out? That supply level is looking now like demand, which would be what? Support, right? So now for the first time it broke above this, and now what you see is just a bunch of trading in between this level. This range right here is just they're just fighting basically. Just buyers and sellers are competing, and buyers are actually winning because it's staying above this previous supply level, which is now considered demand. So now instead of selling it when it gets here, you see when price gets to this point, they are buying it. So it's touching, goes back up. It's coming down, goes back up, coming down, and so forth. That's another way of trading, obviously, is just stick with the trend. If you see something is going on, a pattern is within that trade, just stick with it until it's no longer available. In this case, buying in this level would work out every time. And same thing here. Still, you can still see it's calling. That same price level is just calling for buyers. Try to move this a little further. I believe that's where sellers look like they gave up. And more buyers stepped in. And from that point on, it hasn't touched that level since. See? And this would also be, like I said, that minor level of resistance. It's because you can still see a lot of choppiness here. Just a lot of sellers. More sellers are right here at this level. So at this point, you're looking for a breakout over this level right. This is when snow took off actually, and this is why you can still see like that minor level of resistance. I call it minor because it's not necessarily near the where actually it could be considered a major level, but in this case I would just consider it minor because it's just consolidating to a small range. But either way, whatever you want to call it, it represents a level where a breakout is imminent and it can run. All right, so same thing here. Just look for levels of support and resistance, and look for levels that just scream out. That's just, you can just point out the obvious pattern in there. And once you get used to seeing these patterns more and more, you'll be able to trade them better and better. Because these patterns, you can see them on every chart. It's just a matter of just having the eyesight to recognize them and prepare, have some anticipation for them. All right, and I think that should wrap it up. I mean, for the most part, that's just what you're going to look for. You're going to look for patterns on the daily. You can find the same patterns on the daily time frame, same ones on the hourly, on the 5-minute intraday. It's basically just price action, and you want to do is just prepare for it, anticipate the breakouts on those prices. Let's see. I want to show you square also. See, this is what I was saying before about the minor levels of the breakout to look for. Again, of course, you can still see a nice little flag as said, but again, like I said, these are it's a lot of choppiness to the left of it, so it's kind of hard unless I'm looking forward to break above this level. I wasn't really expecting this run, but now I'm seeing this choppiness here, which was a minor level of resistance, and once it broke this range, it just ran. And like I said, you can spot that not as easily, but if you pay attention and just look for, like I said, just small levels and just these tighter frames of these ranges, you can actually spot this on a few setups. All right, and that'll be all. I think that's 30 minutes. I'm sure that's a long time to go over anything, but hopefully you learned something from it. If not, I'll try to do better next time. Again, this is not necessarily my thing when it comes to making videos, but thank everybody for staying this long and for watching. Thanks.